Everybody agreed on our process, so we won't have anyone coming in saying, oh, this process is going too fast. Some people may think that it's going fast because we may run into an issue that we really need to discuss. And so we might have to slow down. So we may go from 4 meetings to 7. But my job as the holder of the results framework, you, would be to say, look, we're not going past 7 meetings here. So whatever the issue is, our commitment must be to solve the issue, to keep it moving. Does that make sense? So you're always holding the results framework, getting it done. You're agnostic to what we want to do. You're agnostic to how we're going to do it. Your job is to mine the wisdom of the group, keep the process moving, and get it. Now that we have the results framework done, when I'm talking about the results framework, you see, we got all the sense-making stuff done. Now, we're moving into the part, now what are we going to do? The strategy part. Now here's what's important. We're talking about crafting emergent strategy because we don't know the answers. So this is not like writing fiction in your grant proposals. It's going to change. And we've got to be flexible. So adaptive work requires adaptive capital. And that's why we need funders and others in the room so that they understand the nature and the logic of this problem. So they're not trying to tell us to write a 5-year grant proposal and then tell us you can't change anything, because that will not work here. So as we start thinking about strategy, this is our strategy meeting. Now what we're going to start doing is to say, who has contributions? The first thing we want to start thinking about is we're going to have a work group of families, the 3 million. What can the families begin to do to contribute to clean water? And you might come up with 1 or 2 actions that they could take. For example, you might discover when you do your water quality test that there is a lot of drugs in the water because people are throwing their old medications in the trash and it's getting into the water system. This is a huge problem, right? So one of the first things you might say is, we want to get everybody to stop doing that, stop throwing their stuff away, and bringing it to the centers where you can discard your medications. That would be a huge contribution. People could do that. You might have another one. I don't know what it would be. You see my point? But we're going to start with community putting their contribution on the table. We value community so much that we say, you know what? We're going to start with your contribution. What do you want it to be? But we're going to make you contribute because we value your input. So give it to us. This is an important one around water quality. Getting those old drugs out of the house, out of the trash cans, so that those drugs stop going and seeping into the water system. And as you do your research back here may tell you there's another way that residents are contributing. It could be that the boaters are letting all that oil and gas and sewage or whatever, they're dumping it into the water or whatever. Whatever it is you want to come up with. Don't need a lot. 1 or 2 of the most powerful things that people can do. So now when someone says, well, what are families doing to help us? That personal responsibility thing that people always want to harp on. Yep, we believe in personal responsibility. We also believe in systems accountability as well. So we're going to go there next. After this. Then we have programs. What programs, based on what we said, would be some of the good things that would work here? So now I can talk to the nonprofits and say, nonprofits, what would work for us to do this? And it may be that there's 1 or 2 programs that we really need. We're not trying to do a lot. We're trying to aggregate up to do the most powerful strategies. So we need all hands on deck. So this is why I said you may already be doing something, but we may need your energy over here. So you may have to be willing to go to funders and say, you got to fund us to do much more, because we're going to need to really pull some folks off of some of them small projects they were doing to get them focused on this, because it's all hands on deck. Then there's some systems things. You may discover environmentally, you're letting folks, you got environmental policy that lets folks keep mining in particular places. And the fracking runoff is running into the watershed. You see my point? And so maybe we got to change some of this environmental policy because it's contributing to that. So we got to deal with some of these systems challenges. Maybe there's some challenges around the systems of how we do our development pattern, how we develop housing in the area. You hear me talking about manufacturing and industry policy. You may discover that there are some of these systems that are causing you a problem. So you want to try to see if you can improve some of those systems. And then ultimately, you may have to pass some public policy, get some public policy wins to change some of that stuff. But that's why you had your advocates and everybody in the room from the very beginning. And we don't need a lot of strategies. We just need 1 to 3 of the most powerful ones under each one of these. And now we can rock and roll. 2 pieces of paper. Now the question is, who? Can I put a person's name by each of these? So I can say, hello, my name is Michael McAfee. I've been working on this issue of clean water for the longest. I discovered that I can't have the impact that I want to. And Meredith came to me and said that she was tired of us just doing piecemeal work. I was feeling the same way. We went to lunch. I got excited about her vision, and I was like scared as hell of it. But she said, just hang in there with her. She told me to come to a meeting. She said she was going to create the #1 river in the world. I love that vision because it's what I've always wanted to create. So I got scared when she said 146 square kilometers. She says, Michael, don't worry. We're not going to do this by ourselves. We're going to do it in partnership with others. She laid out this process and showed me how she was going to bring other people together. I started seeing the names. I was impressed by the folks that she had in the room. She got me in the room. She told me to suspend my belief on what was happening, also suspend my ideas about what I wanted to do and just trust the process. I did that. What I discovered was that what I was working on was too darn small. I needed to do something big. So she told me to come over here and participate in the sessions. When it got down here to contribution, I came in the room after talking to my board. I helped my board understand we needed to adjust some of our programs. And now I am locked and loaded here. My job is to help the advocates advance public policy that will stop the harm that fracking is doing to the river. What I was originally doing was really nice. I discovered that it was charity. What we really needed was to use my power and my influence of my institution, since I've been around for 30 years, to help the advocates enact this policy win. I went to my board because I know they're scared as hell of policy, don't want to do that. My board said we're going to go with it because we understand that that's what's needed. I was able to use this results framework to help them understand there's no other place to go. Either we do this or we don't. My board said yes. So today I'm in this room to tell you I'm excited to be able to work on behalf of the 3 million people living in the region in a place that is covered by 146 square miles of water that needs to be improved so that it is the best river in the country. And my sole contribution here is to use the resources of my organization to support the advocates in getting this policy win. What that means in year 1 is that I'm going to unleash the power of our lobbying firm on the Ottawa Capitol to start making the case for why this is important. That's my contribution, period. See how that sounds? Clearly know what I'm supposed to be doing. You see the politics that I had to navigate? I can't just jump to policy because I know my board is scared of this. So I needed some time to go back and get clear. If a consultant had done this, you would have had a document that would have been useless because I wouldn't have been able to contribute because my board wasn't with me. We only got a few sheets of paper. This is also your grant proposal. You see my point? You don't even have to go and create anything new now. You've got a grant proposal. You've got the need. You got what you're going to do about it. You got the data in here. And now you got the strategies in here and you got partners. We've got a communications campaign written. We've got a grant proposal written. We've got our partners aligned. Now my job is to help those partners establish targets year over year, 1 through 5. Let's say this is going to be a 20+ year campaign, but at least we can do 1 through 5 so they know what they got to do, right? And then we give them performance measures. And then my job is to measure their performance every year, just like I would an employee. We've created a tight container that is accountable. Nobody is in that room BSing. They know what they got to do when they come in this room. You see my point? We didn't have to spend years defining collective impact. We didn't have to spend years debating what do we mean by clean water. We didn't have to spend years haggling over all the things that are work avoidance behaviors. We just had to get tight about, in our container, how will this container be set up to do something that we've not been able to do in the past, which is to get results at scale. And can we stay focused enough to actually build the muscle to work in this way to learn how to fight in healthy ways, to ignite conflict in healthy ways, to hold each other accountable in healthy ways, to ultimately have to make some tough decisions and fire someone in our collaborative that's not performing and survive it, right? This is what we got. And now we can get to the work about learning and reassessing the strategies over time and continuing to bring people in to do this work. That's the container that I use to win Promised Neighborhoods. And the last thing I'll say before we take a break is this. When I said person, role, and system, this is what I meant. You're not showing up with a small vision. That's what the world needs right now, right? No sense in looking at population level data. Oh, the river's dirty. And then just want to work with 10 square kilometers of it. Or not wanting to deal with the systems things that are causing it to be dirty. You see my point? If you're not going to take on fracking, stop planting trees on the river like that's going to help. You see my point? Because we do that. And we'll try to do something instead of taking on the real thing. Take on the real issue. My point here is you got to show up. Social justice is about a fight, folks. You got to be willing to do the real work to solve the problem, not just stuff that makes you look busy and like you care. Clean water is going to require contributions at every level. It's going to require some fights at every level. You got to be willing to take on the fights. This is not about being nice. This is about being respectful but disruptive in service of the results. And it is about being urgent.